Are you serious? Are you serious? Folks, you don't want to miss tonight's Sunday night live broadcast at 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be talking about the Middle East. Bible prophecy, the entire Middle East. Let me just share one thing's happening. The atrocities that are taking place to Christians and Yiddies there in Iraq and Syria is insane. Now, Jesus said, I'm going to share this with you in a moment, but Jesus told us that these persecutions would come in Matthew 24. Let me share with you what it means to be abandoned in Iraq by President Barack Hussein Obama. Now, but first, two verses. Matthew 24, we know that Jesus was on the Mount of Olives. His disciples came to him and said, can you tell us what are the signs of thy coming in the end of the world? Jesus goes through the list of the false prophets and false Christ and the wars and rumors of wars, nations rising against nations and kingdoms against kingdoms, famines, pestilences, earthquakes, apocalyptic events everywhere taking place on the earth. But in these are just the beginning of sorrows, he said. And here's why. In verse 9, this is Matthew 24:9. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. Now, here's what's happening in Iraq. And notice here, for my name's sake. So he's talking directly to the Christians who carry the name of Christ. Here's what's happening. According to the religious minorities in Iraq, President George W. Bush would have never abandoned us, said Fazl Shakwari, a Yiddi from Iraq and former interpreter for the United States Army, who sought political asylum and now lives in Nebraska. He was one of the 150 Yiddis who arrived in Washington this week to protest in front of the White House. They pleaded for President Obama to take immediate action to help Christians and other religious minorities in Iraq. After a couple of years of disengagement in Iraq, President Barack Obama has suddenly woken up to the stark reality that the war on terrorism is far from over and the Islamic militants and terrorists are winning. I want to thank Don for sending me this report. To fulfill his campaign promise, Obama decided to quickly pull out of the United States troops out of Iraq in 2011, despite warnings of the political instability that would create in the region. Obama knew this was going to happen. Trust me. When it says he was warned, he wasn't warned by some CNN talking head or some political hack. He was warned by a significant amount of his military advisors, including the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and also the State Department. They knew what was going to happen. The CIA knew exactly what was going to happen. Of course, John Brenneman, who is the director of the CIA, is a Muslim himself. He's more concerned about the Muslim population there than certainly the Christians and Yiddis. But to fulfill his campaign promise, Obama decided to quickly pull out his troops. And in 2011, he did. Simultaneously, he fired up the Muslims with his speech in Cairo, Egypt in 2009. I covered it here on YouTube. In 2011, he declared what I believe the Arab Spring. It started with Tunisia, the removal of Ben Ali, then Egypt and Hosni Mubarak, and then Libya with Muammar Gaddafi, and in Yemen with Ali al-Saleh. He then called for the end of President Assad's reign in Syria, but the Russians said no. And actually, this is completely fulfilling, unbelievably, right out of the pages of the Bible in Daniel chapter 11, 41 through 45. Tonight, we're going to talk about what does it mean 4 years later. And though the media don't talk about the Christians that much anymore, they don't want to be, because the beheadings continue, the rapings, the executions, the murdering, the crucifixions. and the slaughter of Christians and Yiddi minority religious groups there in Iraq and Syria. It is still going on. It's a genocide, and nobody wants to talk about it. Are you saved? We will tonight. Not only that, but we're going to talk about what does it mean to have Russia and Turkey conflict. How does that play into biblical prophecy? In Ezekiel 38 and 39, Zechariah 12, Zechariah 14, Matthew 24, Luke 21. We'll be in all over the book of Revelation. We'll also be in Daniel. You can't miss this broadcast tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern, at my website at www.paulbegleyprophecy.com. Get another cup of coffee and get ready. This is going to be powerful. I'll be right back with more current world events, how they relate to Bible prophecy. Are you saved?